Well, welcome to Newcastle Fan Talk. I'm Andrew, I'm the host. Going to talk today a bit about a player who I think is one of the biggest disappointments in Newcastle's recent history and one of the most maligned players we've had, Michael Owen. Michael Owen joined for us for 16 million from Real Madrid in the summer of 2005. He, at the time, had a season at Real Madrid where, whilst he was mainly a sub, he'd scored quite a few goals for them, scored against Barcelona, scored against Valencia, scored in the Champions League, and basically I think most fans were very, very excited about him. We saw him as the long-term replacement for Al in terms of scoring goals, and we felt that he would, regenerate and help improve Newcastle. When he signed, there was the kind of open stadium, lots of fans turned up, and everyone was really, really excited. Unfortunately, it proved to be a bit of a disaster. He was, firstly, when he joined, he talked about, that he would have joined Liverpool if Liverpool had come in for him. Fair enough, he's being honest. But he then didn't really stress about Newcastle. His main focus, every interview seemed to be to talk about getting into the England squad for the World Cup. That he joined Newcastle to play for England because he needs to play regularly. Again, not stressing about how excited he is about Newcastle or anything like that. He then started off pretty well for Newcastle, looked pretty decent. I remember his goals against Blackburn, and also he scored a hat-trick away to West Ham, and we were all quite excited. Then he kind of broke his foot against Spurs. Paul Robinson was the keeper, and then kind of after that we didn't really have the same player, if we're honest. He injured his foot against Spurs, came back in May, looked very unfit, and then he obviously was so keen, he rushed his rehab, was so keen to go away with England to the World Cup. Played pretty badly for England, clearly unfit, didn't have the movement that he had before. He shouldn't have gone to the World Cup. I think Sven realises that now. But went to the World Cup, played against Sweden, kind of went to pass the ball, twisting motion, ruptured his ACL, was out for a whole year. Very annoying for everyone in Newcastle, and we all could see that he basically rushed himself to play for England, and it annoyed me so much when that happened, because we'd lost him for a good few months of the season. He was our highest earner, he was our star player, and then he goes and rushes himself back. I know it's a World Cup, but still, he knew he wasn't fit, so he was out for a whole year with an ACL. And then when he came back, for me, he wasn't the same player. Lost a yard of pace, became a bit more of a poacher. I mean, he wasn't, even when he joined Newcastle, he wasn't obviously the young kid that we'd seen at Liverpool burst onto the scene. But he was there was a big decline in the way he played. I think when Keegan came in, he tried to rejuvenate him, play him in number 10. He had a game where he scored 2 against Sunderland, and at the end of that when first Keegan came in, Michael Owen was playing pretty well. Then along came the season with the season we went down, the first relegation. Oh, thanks Mike Ashley, 2 relegations. First relegation where basically he played pretty poorly. He scored a few goals. Some of the goals, I think he scored a lot up till January, and then it kind of dwindled. He had good chances against Aston Villa, against Portsmouth. Had quite a few good chances at that time, missed them. He was constantly criticising the amount of service he was getting, so he can't do it all on his own. Again, he was coming across a bit selfish. I mean, a lot of fans felt at the time Obafemi Martin should be playing ahead of him because Martin's. And then Shearer came in at the end of the season, played Owen for the first few games, then dropped him, even though they were really good friends. I mean, I think that tells you how much, the Shearer felt Owen had lost. And then we got relegated, and I think Michael Owen's poor form was a contributing factor. It's not the only factor, but when you spend so much money on one player and they don't do it really, we let him go. Afterwards, I think as well, he annoyed Newcastle fans with a few things he said. When he joined Man United, he kept talking about he wants to play in a good team with service. He did get service at Newcastle. He didn't take all his chances, and I think that's one of the things which annoy us. He was a bit disparaging about Newcastle. Kept talking about how much he loves Liverpool and how he loved his time at Liverpool. He loved his time so much at Liverpool. He went and joined Real Madrid and then went and joined their arch rivals Man United. He clearly loves Liverpool very much. I mean, this is why he's a bit of a joke in the media, because he, even like when he talks about how much he loves the Liverpool fans don't love him anymore. They prefer Robbie Fowler because of it. But and I think a lot of our fans, he's one of the biggest disappointments. I mean, he was the record signing up until Almiron joined, and I think it annoyed us whenever they would mention the record signing. There was Michael Owen, because we just didn't like him, constantly talking about England. During his time at Newcastle, I mean, Capello came in at England, dropped him, saw that he wasn't the same player, and I think for Newcastle fans, we were all kind of fed up with the way Owen went about things. There was also lots of talk that he was more interested in horse racing, which, I think he's allowed to have other interests, but when he's not doing what, he was meant to do on the pitch, I think for me the biggest annoyance was that rushing himself back when he knew he wasn't fit, rupturing his ACL. I wouldn't wish injury on anyone, but still rupturing his ACL. I mean, he didn't really have Newcastle's interests. I don't think he really cared. I think if he was playing for, Liverpool or Man U or someone, he'd maybe have been a bit more careful. But I think his prime focus when he joined Newcastle was just to play for England. And, Newcastle fans don't like him. I think I struggled. I mean, there's two pundits on TV who I struggle to watch, Souness and Owen. I mean, Souness, I think, is, like I said, our worst manager. I'm going to do a podcast about him a bit. Not podcast, video about him. But Michael Owen, so much hope, but so much disappointment. If you're enjoying my videos, please click the subscribe and post some comments. Thanks very much.